I found my father while helping him search for me. The DNA test results trembled in my hands as I stared at the man who'd been sleeping on my couch for 3 months. My father, the billionaire everyone said abandoned his family. The man I'd hated my entire life without ever meeting him. And he had no idea the daughter he'd been desperately searching for was the broke orphan girl feeding him rice and stew every night. God has a twisted sense of humor, I swear. Let me take you back to how this whole mess started. It was a Thursday evening in Lagos, and the rain was beating down like God was angry at the earth. I was coming back from my cleaning job at the hotel in Victoria Island, soaked to my bones, thinking about the 72 naira left in my account and the landlord who would come knocking in 3 days for rent I didn't have. My name is Amara. I'm 22 years old and I've been alone since I was born. Well, not exactly born. The nuns at St. Augustine's orphanage told me my mother left me there when I was 3 days old, wrapped in a dirty cloth with no note, no name, nothing. They gave me the name Amara because it means grace. Grace. As if there was anything graceful about growing up without knowing where you came from or who you belonged to. I was rushing to my one-room apartment in Ajigunle, trying to dodge the flood water that always gathered at a junction near Iyatiti's shop when I saw him. An old man collapsed on the ground, rain pouring over his body like he was already dead. People were walking past him. Nobody stopped. This is Lagos. Everyone minds their business because tomorrow might be your turn to need help, and nobody will stop for you either. But something made me stop. Maybe it was because he reminded me of Brother Emeka from the orphanage, who used to sneak me extra food when the other kids weren't looking. Maybe it was because I knew what it felt like to be alone and helpless. I don't know. I just stopped. Sir? Sir, are you okay? I bent down, touching his shoulder. His clothes were expensive, I noticed. Not the kind you see in Ajigunle every day. His skin was cold and he was shivering badly. His eyes opened slowly. They were brown, tired, and filled with something I recognized. Pain, deep pain that had nothing to do with his body. Please, he whispered, help me. I'm not a strong person. I'm barely 5'3" and thin like a broomstick because most days I eat once. But somehow, I managed to pull him up, threw his arm over my shoulder, and dragged him toward my apartment. He was heavy and kept stumbling, and the rain made everything worse. By the time we reached my door, I was completely exhausted. My room is nothing special. One mattress on the floor, a small kerosene stove, a plastic chair, and a bucket for bathing. But it was dry and it was shelter, which was more than he had 5 minutes ago. I laid him on my mattress and went to find a towel. I only had one. I used it to dry his face and arms while he lay there breathing heavily. Thank you, he said. His voice was weak but educated. You could tell he was someone important, or used to be. What's your name? Amara, sir. Amara. He tried to smile. Grace. That's a beautiful name. I'm Chief Okonkwo. Raymond Okonkwo. The name meant nothing to me then. I later learned that Raymond Okonkwo owned half of the commercial real estate in Lagos and had businesses across West Africa. But that night, he was just a sick old man who needed help. Sir, you need to see a doctor, I said, checking his forehead. He was burning with fever. No doctors? Please, no hospitals? He grabbed my hand with surprising strength. I just need rest. Just rest. I didn't understand why he was so afraid of hospitals. But I learned from living in Ajigunle that everyone has secrets they're running from. so I didn't push. I made him gari and groundnut. It was all I had. He ate it like it was jollof rice from the finest restaurant, thanking me after every spoon. Then he fell asleep, and I sat on my plastic chair, watching this stranger on my mattress and wondering what I'd gotten myself into. Chief Okonkwo stayed in my room for 3 days. His fever came and went. I used my last money to buy paracetamol and antibiotics from the chemist down the street. I missed 2 days of work because I was afraid to leave him alone. My supervisor called and fired me over the phone. Just like that, I lost my only source of income. But somehow, I wasn't angry. Taking care of him felt right, like it was what I was supposed to be doing. On the 3rd night, his fever finally broke. He woke up clear-eyed and sat up slowly, looking around my room like he was seeing it for the first time. "How long have I been here?" he asked. 3 days, sir." He shook his head in disbelief. 3 days and you've taken care of me. Why? You don't know me." I shrugged. "You needed help? That's enough reason." He stared at me for a long time, his eyes getting wet. "The world is full of people, but kindness is rare. Very rare. How old are you, Amara?" 22, sir." Something changed in his face. Pain flashed across it, sharp and deep. 22. The same age as my daughter would be now. Would be? "I lost her," he said quietly. "Lost her 22 years ago. I've been searching ever since." And that's when he told me his story. His wife Chinwe died during childbirth. He was devastated, drunk with grief, and his own family, saw an opportunity. His younger brother, Namdi, and his mother convinced him that the baby was cursed, that she had killed her mother and would bring more death to the family. In his grief and confusion, he believed them. "They took her from the hospital," Chief Okonkwo said, his voice breaking. "Told me they would find her a good home. I was so lost in my pain that I let them. But when I finally came to my senses 3 months later and went looking for her, they claimed they'd given her to a distant relative in the East. That relative said she died of fever 2 weeks after arrival." "But you don't believe them," I said. "I didn't believe them then, and I don't believe them now. I've spent 22 years and millions of naira searching. I hired private investigators, searched orphanages, talked to street children, checked hospitals. Nothing. It's like she vanished into thin air." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "That's why I was in the rain that night. I'd just come from a dead end, another false lead. Another person claiming to be her just for money. I was so tired, so hopeless. I think my body just gave up. My heart was breaking for him. I understood that kind of loss, that kind of emptiness. I'd felt it my whole life. Sir, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me." He grabbed my hands. "Help me find her. I know it's too much to ask. I know you have your own life, your own problems. But please, I'm 65 years old and running out of time. I need to find her before I die. I need to tell her I'm sorry. I need her to know I never stopped looking." I should have said no. I should have told him I had my own problems, that I'd just lost my job taking care of him, that I had rent to pay and a life to figure out. But when I looked into his desperate eyes, I saw myself. All those years wondering about my own parents, creating stories in my head about why they left me, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they were looking for me too. "What clues do you have?" I heard myself asking. His face lit up with hope. "I have the hospital records, the exact date and time she was born. I have a birthmark on her left shoulder. My wife had the same mark. It looks like a small star. And I have this. He pulled out a small gold chain from under his shirt. Hanging from it was half of a pendant. It looked like it was meant to fit with another half to form a complete circle with some kind of symbol on it. I bought this for my wife when she was pregnant. She wore it every day. After she died, I broke it in half. I kept one half and I put the other half on my baby's neck before my family took her. If she's still alive, she might still have it. Or maybe someone who knew her has it. I looked at the pendant and something stirred in my memory. Something I couldn't quite grasp, but it slipped away before I could catch it. I'll help you, sir, I said. I promise. We'll find your daughter. He pulled me into a hug and cried on my shoulder. And I cried too, for both of us, for all the lost children and desperate parents in the world. The next morning, Chief Okonkwo transferred 300,000 naira to my account. I nearly fainted when I saw the alert. Sir, this is too much, I said. It's not enough. You lost your job because of me. You spent your last money on my medicine. You gave me your bed and slept on the floor. This is the least I can do. Besides, you'll need money for transportation as we search. He also insisted on moving to a hotel, but I told him to save his money. You can stay here until you're completely well. I don't mind. So he stayed, and we became an unlikely team. The broke orphan girl and the billionaire, searching for his lost daughter. We started with the hospital where his daughter was born. Chief Okonkwo had been there 1,000 times before, but we went again. We talked to old nurses, security guards, anyone who might remember something from 22 years ago. Most people were new, but we found one nurse, Nurse Gladys, who had been there for 30 years. I remember you, Chief, she said. You were the man who lost his wife and his baby on the same day. So sad. I cried for you. The baby didn't die, Chief Okonkwo said firmly. My family took her. Do you remember anything about that day? Anything at all? Nurse Gladys thought hard. Your mother and brother came. They were in a hurry. Very secretive. They wrapped the baby and left quickly. But I remember one thing. Your brother made a phone call in the corridor. He was speaking Igbo, but I heard him say something about Ajegunle. He said, the place in Ajegunle is ready. My heart skipped. Ajegunle. The same place where I lived. The same place where the orphanage was located. Chief Okonkwo and I looked at each other. We were thinking the same thing. St. Augustine's Orphanage, I said, is the biggest orphanage in Ajegunle. It's been there for over 30 years. We went straight there. My hands were shaking as we walked through the gate. I'd left this place when I turned 18, and I'd never wanted to come back. Too many painful memories. Too many nights crying for a mother who never came. Sister Mary, the oldest nun, remembered me. Amara, my dear child, how are you? I'm fine, sister. I'm here with Chief Okonkwo. We're looking for information about a baby girl who might have been brought here 22 years ago. Sister Mary's face became serious. 22 years is a long time. Many babies came through here. Do you have any specific information? Chief Okonkwo showed her his records, the date, the time, everything. Sister Mary went to our office and came back with an old dusty register. We keep records of every child, she said, flipping through pages. Here, April 15th, 2003. We received 3 babies that week, 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl was brought in by a man who said he found her abandoned. He didn't give his name. He just left money for her whole car and disappeared. What happened to her? Chief Okonkwo's voice was shaking. She stayed here until she was 18. Then she left to make her own way in the world. Sister Mary looked at me with meaningful eyes. Her name was Amara. The room started spinning. My head felt light. I gripped the table to steady myself. Sister Mary, I said slowly, when exactly was I brought here? April 15th, 2003, my dear. You don't remember. You are only 3 days old. 3 days old. The same age as Chief Okonkwo's daughter when she was taken. I looked at Chief Okonkwo, and he was staring at me with wide eyes, his mouth open in shock. The birthmark, he whispered. You said she has a birthmark, a star on her left shoulder. I'd always been self-conscious about that mark. As a child, the other orphans used to tease me about it, calling it a witch mark. I usually kept it covered. With trembling hands, I pulled down the collar of my shirt to reveal my left shoulder. There it was, the small star-shaped birthmark I'd had all my life. Chief Okonkwo made a sound like he'd been punched in the stomach. He stood up, walked closer, and touched the mark gently with his finger. Tears were streaming down his face. Chinwe, he whispered. My Chinwe had the same mark, exactly the same. I ran out of the orphanage. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My whole life, my entire existence, was suddenly a lie and the truth at the same time. Chief Okonkwo followed me outside. Amara, wait, please. I can't, I said, my voice breaking. I can't do this. It's too much. All my life I thought my mother abandoned me because she didn't want me. I thought I was worthless, that something was wrong with me. And now you're telling me that I had a father, that I had someone who was looking for me all these years. I never stopped looking, he said, grabbing my shoulders. Never. Not for one day. I've been searching for you since you were 3 months old. Every single day for 22 years. But it doesn't make sense. I pulled away from him. The birthmark, the date, the location. It could all be coincidence. You can't just decide I'm your daughter based on these things. You need proof. Real proof. You're right, he said, wiping his tears. We need to be sure. DNA test. We'll do a DNA test. Then we'll know for certain. But I was already walking away. I couldn't deal with this. I couldn't hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope had hurt me too many times before. I went back to my room and locked the door. Chief Okonkwo knocked for hours, begging me to let him in, but I ignored him. Eventually, he stopped. I heard him talking to my neighbor, Mama Ngozi, asking her to check on me. I heard him walk away. I spent the whole night staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What if it was true? What if Chief Okonkwo was really my father? That meant I wasn't an orphan. I had family. I belonged to someone. But it also meant that his family had stolen my entire life from me. They had taken me from my father and left me in an orphanage to grow up alone, hungry, and afraid. The anger that filled me was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I wanted to find these people, this uncle and grandmother who had ruined 2 lives with their greed and superstition. I wanted them to pay. But beneath the anger was fear. What if I did the DNA test and it came back negative? What if I wasn't his daughter? What if this was just another cruel joke from a universe that had never been kind to me? I couldn't take that disappointment. I couldn't survive it. So I made a decision. I wouldn't tell him. I would help him search for his real daughter. And I would keep the possibility that I might be her locked deep inside my heart, where it couldn't hurt me. The next morning, I opened my door to find Chief Okonkwo sleeping on the floor outside my room. He'd spent the whole night there. Mama Ngozi was standing over him, shaking her head. "This old man has been here all night," she said to me. "He refused to leave, said he needed to make sure you were okay. Amara, what's going on? Is it disturbing you? Should I call the boys to chase him?" "No, Mama, he's a friend. It's okay." I bent down and touched his shoulder. "Sir, Chief, wake up." His eyes opened, and the relief on his face when he saw me almost broke my heart. "Amara, thank God. I was so worried. I'm sorry I locked you out. I just needed time to think." "I understand. I'm sorry for overwhelming you yesterday. I got carried away. But Amara, we need to do the test. We need to know for sure." This was it. The moment I had to lie to him. The moment I had to protect myself from hope. "Chief, I've been thinking about it all night. The birthmark and the date, they're just coincidences. I can't be your daughter. I'm sorry. I got your hopes up for nothing." His face fell. "But the birthmark is exactly..." "Birthmarks are common, sir. And many babies were abandoned that year. I'm just an orphan who happened to help you. Nothing more. But I promised to help you find your daughter. And I keep my promises. We'll continue searching." He looked at me for a long time, his eyes searching my face. I could see he didn't believe me, but he was too kind to push. "If that's what you want. But Amara, whenever you're ready, the offer for the DNA test stands. There's no pressure, no rush." "Thank you, sir. Now let's get you off this floor before your bones break. Mama Ngozi, please help me." We spent the next 2 months searching. We visited every orphanage in Lagos. We talked to social workers, street children, anyone who might have information. Chief Okonkwo was tireless. Despite his age, he woke up every morning with new energy, new hope, and I fell in love with him. Not romantic love, but something deeper. The kind of love you have for someone who sees the best in you, even when you can't see it yourself. He treated me with respect and kindness. He listened when I talked. He valued my opinions. He made me feel like I mattered. We developed a routine. I would cook breakfast while he read the newspaper. We would plan our day's search over tea. In the evenings, we would sit in my small room and talk about everything and nothing. He told me about his wife, Chinwe, about how she loved to dance, even though she had 2 left feet. How she could burn water but insisted on cooking anyway. How she laughed at her own jokes before she even finished telling them. "You remind me of her," he said one evening. "The way you tilt your head when you're thinking. The way you bite your lip when you're worried." Chinwe did the same things. I wanted to tell him then. I wanted to say, maybe that's because I'm your daughter. But fear held my tongue. And then there was the money situation. Chief Okonkwo kept trying to give me money. Large amounts. Money that would change my life forever. "Sir, I can't take this," I said every time. "Why not? You're working for me. You deserve to be paid." "I'm not working for you. I'm helping you because I want to. There's a difference." "Then take it as a gift, as a thank you for your kindness." "I don't want your money, Chief. I want to help you find your daughter. That's all." But he was stubborn. He started doing small things. He paid my rent for a year. He bought me a phone when mine stopped working. He restocked my food supplies without asking, and I couldn't refuse these things without hurting his feelings. So I accepted them with gratitude. My neighbors started gossiping. Some said I was his young girlfriend. Others said I was conning him. Mama Ngozi defended me to everyone, but I could see the questions in her eyes too. Amara, she said to me one day, this man is rich, very rich. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Rich men always want something in return. He's not like that, Mama. He's a good man. Maybe, but be careful. Guard your heart. But it was too late for that advice. My heart was already fully invested, not in his money, but in him. In this relationship we'd built, in the father-daughter bond we'd created without ever acknowledging what it was. It was a Saturday morning when everything changed again. I was sorting through some old things from the orphanage that Sister Mary had given me. Photos, drawings I'd made as a child, my medical records. At the bottom of the box was a small cloth bag I'd never bothered to open before. Inside was a pendant, a half-circle pendant with what looked like half of a symbol etched on it. My hand started shaking. I pulled it out and held it up to the light. It was old, tarnished, but definitely gold, and it looked exactly like the one Chief Okonkwo wore around his neck. I sat there frozen, staring at this piece of metal that had been in my possession all my life, without me knowing its significance. This was the proof, the undeniable proof that I was his daughter. But instead of joy, I felt terror, because now I had to tell him. Now I had to face the truth I'd been running from for 2 months. Now I had to risk hoping. I had Chief Okonkwo's key in the door. He'd gotten a key made so he could come and go freely. He walked in carrying bags of groceries, humming to himself. Amara, I bought fish. Fresh fish from the market. Tonight, I'm going to attempt to make pepper soup. Pray for me. He laughed at his own joke, then noticed my face. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't speak. I just held up the pendant. He dropped the groceries. The bags hit the floor with a crash, but he didn't seem to notice. He walked over slowly, his eyes fixed on the pendant in my hand. Where did you get that? His voice was barely a whisper. It was with my things from the orphanage. Sister Mary gave them to me. I never opened this bag before. I didn't know it was there. He pulled out his own pendant with trembling hands. He held the two halves together and they fit perfectly. Together they formed a complete circle with a symbol, the Igbo symbol for eternal love, Chinwe. He breathed. I bought these for us. One for me, one for her. When she died, I broke it in half. I kept mine and put the other half on our baby, on my daughter. He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. On you. I'm scared, I whispered. Why? Because what if the DNA test says I'm not your daughter? What if this is another coincidence? What if it says you are? He interrupted. What if this pendant, the birthmark, the date, the location, what if they're all telling us the same truth? What if you've been my daughter all along and we've wasted 2 months pretending otherwise? I don't know how to be someone's daughter, I said, and the tears finally came. I've been alone all my life. I don't know how to belong to someone. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not the daughter you've been dreaming of for 22 years? He pulled me into his arms and held me tight. You could never disappoint me. You're kind, brave, generous, and strong. You saved my life when I was a stranger. You've stood by me through this search. You've become my family in these past months, whether we're blood related or not. But Amara, I think we both know the truth. We've known it since that day at the orphanage. We've just been too afraid to admit it. He was right. I'd known it in my bones from the moment Sister Mary showed us that register. I'd known it every time he looked at me with pride. I'd known it every time he called me my dear with such tenderness. Let's do the test, I said. Let's know for sure. The DNA test took 2 weeks. 2 weeks that felt like 2 years. Chief Okonkwo wanted to celebrate immediately, convinced the results would confirm what we both believed. But I made him wait. I needed that official proof before I let myself hope completely. During those 2 weeks, something shifted between us. We stopped pretending. He started calling me his daughter. I started calling him Daddy. It felt strange at first, like wearing shoes that didn't quite fit. But gradually, it began to feel natural. Right. He took me shopping. I'd never been shopping with someone who wanted to buy me things before. The orphanage gave us donated clothes that never fit properly. As an adult, I shopped at Yaba Market for the cheapest items I could find, but Chief Okonkwo took me to the mall, real shops with air conditioning and mirrors. Pick anything you want, he said. Daddy, this is too much. It's not enough. I've missed 22 years of birthdays, Christmases, graduations. Let me spoil you a little. I picked the cheapest items I could find. He noticed and quietly told the sales girl to pack everything I touched or looked at for more than 5 seconds. I ended up with more clothes than I'd owned in my entire life. He also took me to his house. I'd been avoiding it, afraid to see the world I might belong to. But when we drove through the gates of his estate in Ikoyi, I understood why he'd been living in my one-room apartment for months. The house was massive but empty, beautiful but cold. It felt like a museum, not a home. I haven't really lived there since Chinwe died, he admitted. It's just a place I sleep sometimes, a place that reminds me of everything I lost. We walked through rooms filled with expensive furniture covered in white sheets. He showed me photos of his wife. She was beautiful, and she had my eyes, my nose, my smile. This was supposed to be the nursery, he said, opening a door to a pink room filled with dusty baby furniture. I couldn't bear to change it, couldn't bear to accept that she was gone. I stood in that room and cried. For him. For me, for the childhood that could have been, but wasn't. For all the lost years we could never get back. When the results come, he said, holding me, when they confirm you're my daughter, I want you to help me turn this house into a home again. I want us to make new memories here. Better memories. What if your family finds out? I asked. The ones who took me away. What if they come back? His face hardened. Let them come. I've been too weak before, too willing to forgive, but not this time. If you are my daughter, if they really stole you from me, I'll make sure they pay for every year of suffering they caused us both. I'd never heard him speak with such anger. It scared me a little, but it also made me feel protected, safe. For the first time in my life, someone was willing to fight for me. The day the results were supposed to come, we both woke up early. We couldn't eat breakfast. We couldn't focus on anything. We just sat in my room, holding hands, waiting for the phone to ring. When it finally did, Chief Okonkwo answered with shaking hands. He listened to the doctor, his face unreadable. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. When he hung up, he just stared at the phone. Daddy? My voice was small, terrified. He looked up at me, and his face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. 99.9% match. You're my daughter, my Amara, my precious girl. You're really mine. We held each other and cried. We cried for so long that Mama Ngozi came knocking, worried something terrible had happened. When we told her the news, she started crying too. Soon, half the neighbors were in my room, celebrating with us. People who barely knew us but understood the miracle of what had just happened. This is the work of God, Mama Ngozi kept saying. Only God could orchestrate something like this. The lost is found. The lost is found. Moving into the Ikoyi house felt surreal. One day, I was a broke orphan in a one-room apartment in Ajegunle. The next day, I was the daughter of one of the richest men in Lagos, living in a mansion with more rooms than I could count. But Daddy made it easy. He didn't treat me like I should know how to navigate this world. He was patient with my confusion, gentle with my insecurities. When I used the wrong fork at dinner, he laughed and told me he still didn't know which fork was for what. When I got lost in the house, he drew me a map. When I felt overwhelmed by the sudden wealth, he reminded me that money didn't change who I was. You're still the same Amara who saved me in the rain, he said. The same girl who fed me gari and groundnuts like it was a feast. The same person who promised to help a desperate old man find his daughter, not knowing she was helping him find her own self. That's who you are. Not the money, not this house, you. But there were adjustments. Oh, so many adjustments. Daddy hired teachers to help me. English lessons to refine my grammar. Etiquette classes to teach me how to navigate high society. Business courses because he wanted me to eventually take over his companies. It was exhausting but exciting. The hardest part was dealing with people's reactions. Some were genuinely happy for me, but others looked at me like I was a fraud. A poor girl who'd conned a rich old man. The newspapers had a field day with our story. Billionaire finds lost daughter after 22 years was a headline. But so was Gold Digger claims to be tycoon's missing child. Daddy wanted to sue every publication that questioned my legitimacy. I had to stop him. Let them talk, I said. We know the truth. That's all that matters. What really mattered to me was getting to know him. Really know him. We spent hours talking every day. He told me about his childhood, growing up poor in Onitsha, how he'd worked as a bus conductor to pay for secondary school, how he'd built his business from nothing, how he'd met my mother at a wedding and known immediately she was the one. She was dancing, he said, smiling at the memory. Terribly, just completely offbeat, but she was so happy, so free. I fell in love with her joy, with her ability to find happiness in small things. You have that too. I see it when you're cooking, when you're reading, when you're just sitting and thinking. That same peaceful happiness your mother had. I told him about my life too. About the orphanage, about the hunger, the loneliness, the fear, about the kind nuns who did their best with limited resources, about the other children, some kind, some cruel, about leaving at 18 with nothing but a primary school certificate and determination to survive. I worked as a house girl first, I told him. The madam was wicked. She would beat me for small things. I ran away after 6 months. Then I got the cleaning job at the hotel. It wasn't much, but it was honest work. I was proud of it. You should be proud, Daddy said fiercely. You survived. You stayed kind despite everything. That takes real strength. More strength than making money or building businesses. I'm proud of you, Amara. So proud. Those words. those simple words. They healed something in me I didn't even know was broken. We also had to deal with the legal aspects. Daddy's lawyers worked to get my birth certificate corrected, to officially change my surname to Okonkwo, to establish my legal identity as his daughter and heir. It was complicated because there were no records of my original birth certificate. We had to go to court, present the DNA evidence, get testimonies from Sister Mary and the hospital. But eventually it was done. I was officially Amara Chinwe Okonkwo, named after my mother, the daughter who'd been lost but was now found. And then came the day Daddy had been dreading. The confrontation with his family. His brother, Anamdi, and his mother had heard the news, of course. It was all over the media. They'd been calling non-stop, but Daddy had refused to take their calls. Now they showed up at the house unannounced. I was in the library reading when I heard the shouting. I ran to the living room to find Daddy standing face to face with a man who looked like an older, meaner version of him, his brother. Next to him was a small elderly woman leaning on the walking stick, his mother. My grandmother, though the word felt wrong in my mouth. Raymond, please, the old woman was saying. Let us explain. Explain. Daddy's voice was cold. Explain how you stole my daughter, how you abandoned her in an orphanage, how you let me suffer for 22 years thinking she was dead. We did it for your own good, Namdi shouted. That child was cursed. Her mother died giving birth to her. She would have destroyed you, destroyed this family. She is this family. She's my daughter, my only child. And you threw her away like garbage because of your superstitious nonsense. That's when they noticed me standing in the doorway. Nemdi's eyes went wide. My grandmother gasped. You, she whispered. You are the girl from Ajegunle, the one the papers are talking about. You're claiming to be Raymond's daughter. I'm not claiming anything, I said, walking into the room with my head held high. I am his daughter. We have DNA proof. I am Amara Chinwe Okonkwo, and you took me from my father when I was 3 days old and left me to grow up alone and afraid. You stole my entire childhood, both of our childhoods. And Namdi stepped forward aggressively. This is a scam. You're some village girl who... Enough. Daddy's voice was like thunder. Get out of my house, both of you. You're no longer welcome here. You're no longer family to me. Raymond, I'm your mother, the old woman pleaded. A mother doesn't destroy her son's life. A mother doesn't steal a grandchild. Whatever you were to me, you stopped being it 22 years ago. Leave. Now. Security came and escorted them out. They were shouting threats, promising legal action, claiming they would prove I was a fraud. But Daddy didn't care. He just held me close as we watched them leave. I should have done that 22 years ago, he said. I should have never trusted them with you. I should have fought harder. I'm sorry, Amara. I'm so sorry. You didn't know, I said. You were grieving. They took advantage of your pain, but it's over now. We found each other. That's what matters. That night, we sat on the balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline, and Daddy told me about his plans for the future, his plans for us. I want to establish a foundation, he said, for orphans, to make sure what happened to you never happens to another child. We'll provide education, housing, healthcare. We'll help them find their families if possible, and we'll make sure they know they matter, that they are valued, that they are loved. The Chinwe Okonkwo Foundation, I said, named after my mother. He squeezed my hand. Named after your mother. She would have loved you so much, Amara. She would have been so proud of the woman you've become. I wish I could have known her. You do know her. You're just like her. Kind, strong, full of grace. She lives on in you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights twinkle in the darkness. Then I said something that had been on my mind for weeks. Daddy, I want to go back to school. I want to get my degree. I know you want me to learn the business, but I need to do this properly. I need to prove to myself that I can achieve something on my own merit, not just because I'm your daughter. He smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I've already talked to the admissions office at the University of Lagos. Classes start in 3 months. You'll have to take the entrance exams, but I believe in you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for finding me in the rain that night. Thank you for taking me in when I was a stranger. Thank you for being exactly who you are. As I sat there with my father, looking out at the life that had somehow become mine, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain, the loneliness, the hope, the fear, the joy. All of it had led to this moment. This peace. I thought about the orphan girl who used to cry herself to sleep every night, wondering why she wasn't wanted. I wished I could go back and tell her that she was wanted, that she'd always been wanted, that her father had been searching for her every single day, that she was loved more than she could imagine. I thought about how I'd almost let fear stop me from embracing this truth, how I'd almost walked away from the possibility of family because I was too scared to hope. Daddy, I said, do you believe in fate, that things happen for a reason? He thought about it. I believe that God works in mysterious ways. I don't know why we had to spend 22 years apart. I don't know why you had to suffer in that orphanage. I don't know why I had to search for so long. But I believe that every step, every painful moment, every disappointment, it all led us to that night in the rain. It led you to save me. It led us to save each other. I wasn't saving you that night, I said. I was saving myself. I just didn't know it yet. He pulled me close and we stayed like that for a long time. Father and daughter, found at last. Not by coincidence, not by accident, but by grace. By the same grace that had carried me through 22 years of loneliness and brought me to that exact spot in the rain on that exact Thursday evening. The same grace that my mother's people must have prayed for when they named me. Imara, grace. 6 months later, I was sitting in a university classroom taking notes like any other student. But when class ended, my driver was waiting outside in a Mercedes to take me home to Ikoyi. It was a strange life, being both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. The Chinwe Okonkwo Foundation had launched to great success. We'd already sponsored 50 children from various orphanages, helping them get education and job training. We'd reunited 3 families who'd been separated by tragedy. Every time we helped a child, I saw my younger self, and it healed me a little more. Namdi and my grandmother had tried to sue for a share of Daddy's estate, claiming I was mentally manipulating him. The court threw out their case after one hearing. DNA evidence doesn't lie. They'd also been investigated for child abandonment, but Daddy decided not to press charges. Revenge won't give us back those lost years, he said. Let's focus on the future, not the past. Mama Ngozi from Ajegunle came to visit often. Daddy had bought her a new, bigger shop and given her capital to expand her business. Your daughter saved my life, he told her. Anyone who was kind to her is family to me now. Sister Mary and the other nuns from St. Augustine's were regular guests too. Daddy had donated a new building to the orphanage and committed to funding it for the next 20 years. You took care of my daughter when I couldn't, he told them. I can never repay that, but I can make sure you have the resources to take care of other children the way you took care of her. As for me, I was still adjusting, still learning to accept that this was my life now. Still sometimes waking up in the middle of the night, convinced it was all a dream, and I find myself back in that one-room apartment in Ajegunle. But then, I'd hear Daddy's footsteps in the hallway, checking to make sure I was okay like he did every night. And I'd remember that it was real. All of it was real. I had a father. I had a home. I had a name that meant something. I had a future filled with possibilities I'd never dared to dream of. And it all started because I stopped for a stranger in the rain. Because I chose kindness when I had every reason to walk past. Because I helped a man look for his daughter, never knowing I was helping him find me. Life is funny like that. You think you're going one direction and suddenly you're somewhere completely different. You think you're alone, and then you discover you never were. You think you're nobody, and then someone looks at you and says, "You're my daughter, you're everything." Sometimes the person you're searching for is right in front of you. Sometimes the answer you need is in your own hands. Sometimes the family you're longing for is waiting for you to just reach out and hold on. And sometimes, when the rain is pouring and the night is dark and everything seems hopeless, that's exactly when your miracle arrives. You just have to be brave enough to stop, to help, to hope. My name is Amara Chinwe Okonkwo. I'm 23 years old. I'm a university student, a foundation co-director, and the daughter of Raymond Okonkwo. But most importantly, I'm the girl who was lost and then found. And I'm still learning what it means to be loved. But I'm learning. We're learning together, father and daughter, building the relationship we should have had from the start, making up for lost time, creating new memories to replace the painful ones. And every time it rains now, I smile. Because rain brought me my father. Rain gave me back my life. Rain washed away the old story and wrote a new one. A story about grace, about redemption, about second chances, about never giving up hope, even when hope seems foolish, about finding your family in the most unexpected places, even when you're the one they've been searching for all along.